Endangered gray wolves killed in Utah despite federal protection laws. In a shocking incident that has sparked outrage among wildlife advocates, three gray wolves were shot and killed in Utah earlier this month, despite the species being federally protected as endangered. According to the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, the wolves were lethally removed by the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food on January 9 after they were found in a small portion of the state where federal protections for grey wolves do not apply. Now we take a deeper look and break down this entire story on the AI
I
podcast.
want you to start by picturing a map. Just a regular road map of the American West.
Okay.
Now, zoom way, way in. Imagine you're standing on the shoulder of a highway. Let's say it's Interstate 80. You can hear the trucks rumbling by.
Mm-hmm.
Now put an animal there, a gray wolf.
Okay, I'm with you.
So here's a scenario. If that wolf is standing on the south side of that white line on the asphalt, it's a federally protected icon. It's endangered. It is illegal to hunt it, trap it. You can't even harass it.
Right. You mess with that wolf, you're dealing with the fake.
Exactly. But if that same wolf just trots across the road, literally dodges a couple of cars, and steps onto the north shoulder, the whole world flips.
It's like stepping through a portal into another reality.
It really is. Suddenly, it's not an icon, it's a target. And not only is it a target, the state is actually legally required to eliminate it.
And the wolf hasn't changed.
He turned out
Nothing different.
nothing. It just crossed the street.
It's a shocking image. But what you're describing, it's not a thought experiment. This is the reality we're digging into today. We're talking about these invisible lines on a map that have very real, and in this case, very fatal consequences.
That idea of fatal geography is exactly what we're unpacking. We're getting into this really intense story out of Utah about the recent killing of 3 gray wolves.
And to guide us, we're looking at an article titled The Delisted Zone, Utah's Fatal Loophole for Gray Wolves. We've also got, reports from the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, the Department of Agriculture, and just a huge amount of public reaction to sort through.
Right, and our mission here is really to understand how this is even possible. How can a legal loophole basically override federal conservation law? What is this delisted zone?
And why has it sparked such a truly fierce debate between agricultural security on one side and wildlife preservation on the other?
And just to be super clear up front, we are not here to pick a side. We're not saying the ranchers are right or the conservationists are right. We're here to understand the mechanics. How do 3 wolves end up shot and killed in a state where they're supposed to be protected?
It's where the cold, hard lines of the law crash right into the messy reality of an ecosystem.
So let's go there. Take us to January 9th. What actually happened?
So the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, or DWR, they confirmed that 3 gray wolves were, and this is their exact phrasing, lethally removed.
Lethally removed. I always find that language so sterile.
It
It
is.
means they were shot and killed.
Correct. Yes. The operation was carried out by the Utah Department of Agriculture. And this thing, it blew up almost immediately. It wasn't just some local news item.
How so?
Photos of the dead wolves started circulating on social media. And, you can imagine, images of these animals, a species that most of the country thinks of as endangered, it just sparks this incredibly visceral reaction.
Well, of course. I think for most people listening, the first question is, wait a second. Aren't gray wolves protected? I thought they were put back on the endangered species list in 2022. You can't just go shoot one.
You'd think so. And for the most part, you'd be right. But this is where we have to go back to that map. Because the answer to, is this legal, depends completely on where you're standing.
And this is what the source calls the delisted zone.
That's the one. It's a geographic carve-out. This didn't happen just anywhere in Utah. It happened inside a very specific box.
I was looking at the map for this, and it's so weird. It's not a river or a mountain range. It's a highway.
Entirely man-made. It's a narrow region in northern Utah, the area north of Interstate 80 and east of Interstate 84, all up in Cache County.
So if I'm driving down I-80, my dashboard is literally the line between life and death for these animals.
That's effectively it, yeah.
Yeah.
In most of the U.S., including most of Utah, gray wolves are federally protected. But inside that specific pocket north of I-80, east of I-84, those protections just vanish.
It's a kill box.
Legally, they'd call it a management zone. But yes, in this area, the wolves are not protected under the Endangered Species Act, which gives Utah the authority to, manage them.
It just highlights how surreal this all is. A wolf doesn't know what I-80 is. It doesn't know it's crossing a county line. It's just following a scent. But its right to exist literally evaporates when it crosses that invisible line.
And that zone isn't some mistake. It wasn't a typo in the law. It exists by design. And this is where we need to get into the why. Why does Utah even have this power?
Because usually federal law trumps state law, right? If the feds say protect it, the state can't just say, never mind.
Exactly. Unless the federal government grants a very specific exception. And that's what happened here. For decades, Utah officials have argued that wolves are a unique threat to their agricultural industry.
So they fought the blanket protection.
It did. And the compromise was this delisted zone. It was a way for the federal government to say, okay, fine, we will protect them everywhere else. But in this one specific dense agricultural corridor, the state gets to call the shots.
So the feds basically gave them one corner of the sandbox to play by their own rules.
That's a good way to put it. But here's where the source material gets even crazier. It's not just that the state can kill wolves there. It's not just permission. State law mandates it.
Wait, mandates it? As in, they have to. They don't have a choice.
The directive is incredibly specific. The DWR spokesperson quoted in the article says, state law directs the DWR to prevent wolves from establishing breeding pairs in this zone.
Wow, prevent them from establishing breeding pairs. That's not remove problem wolves, that's stop them from mating.
This is the absolute core of their strategy. It is population control at the most fundamental level. They want to ensure a permanent wolf pack never ever gets established there.
Which brings us to the part of this that I think really lit the fire online. The justification for killing these specific 3 wolves. The DWR said they were in areas with livestock.
Right.
But, and this feels like a huge but, the source also says there was no confirmed evidence that these particular wolves had actually killed any livestock.
And that is the critical nuance. This is the difference between what we call reactive management and preventative management.
Reactive being, a wolf killed a calf, we conserved it, now we're going after that wolf.
Precisely. You punish the animal for the act. That's how it works in a lot of places. But here, in the delisted zone, the logic is preventative.
So the state is basically saying their mere presence is the problem.
Yes. It's like something out of that movie Minority Report. They're stopping a crime before it happens.
That's a great analogy.
The state's argument is, look, if we don't remove them now, they will find each other. They'll form a breeding pair. Then you'll have a pack. And if you have a pack in Cache County, you will eventually have dead livestock.
So from their point of view, the crime was just existing in a place where they could cause damage in the future.
And they would say their strategy is working. The DWR points out that right now, there are no known established wolf packs in all of Utah. Occasional sightings, yes. Very rare cases of depredation. But no packs. They see these 3 dead wolves not as a failure, but as proof the system is working exactly as intended.
But for a huge portion of the public, that success looks like a moral failure.
Absolutely. And that's where you get this massive collision of values.
Let's talk about that outcry, because when you see a photo of these beautiful animals and then you read that they hadn't actually hurt a thing, the emotional reaction is pretty powerful.
It is. The conservationist argument is really strong. The questions flooding social media were all along the lines of, why lethal force? Why is a bullet the first and only option?
And why not relocation? That seems like the obvious question. If they're protected just a few miles south of I-80, why not tranquilize them and move them?
It sounds so simple on paper, doesn't it?
It does.
And that's what a lot of people feel. The source quotes a local resident, Lonnie Evans, who really captures this. She said, I wish they would have had a way to relocate them rather than kill them. It's a very human reaction.
But I'm sensing it's not that easy.
It's incredibly complex.
Yeah.
Wolves are fiercely territorial. If you drop them in another pack's territory, they'll likely be killed by other wolves.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
And if you move them to an empty area, they might just turn around and walk right back. A wolf can travel 30, 50 miles in a day, easy. So for the DWR, it's this problem of, we can't keep them here, and we don't really have anywhere else to put them.
Still feels like such a waste, especially when, like, a couple of states over, we're spending millions of dollars to reintroduce wolves.
That inconsistency drives people absolutely mad.
Yeah.
One person quoted in the article asked, why are wolves reintroduced in some states but killed on site in others? It feels schizophrenic.
Yeah, you have one agency flying them in on helicopters to save an ecosystem and another agency shooting them to save cattle.
And the other big critique was about the standard of evidence. The idea that, as one person put it, you have to prove they are predating livestock before taking such drastic measures.
Innocent until proven guilty, but for an animal.
Right.
But to be fair, we have to look at the other side of this, because the source is clear. There's a lot of support for this action in Utah.
A huge amount. For ranchers in Cache County, this isn't some romantic debate about the wild. It's about their livelihood. It's about their bottom line.
The source had some pretty blunt quotes from that side, I remember.
Oh, yeah. One comment was just, "The only good wolf is a dead wolf." And while that sounds harsh, another comment explained the fear behind it. They said, wolves don't just kill when hungry. They kill constantly until everything is gone. They need heavy control.
Kill constantly until everything is gone. Is that true, biologically?
Well, biologists would probably argue about the constantly part. But surplus killing is a documented behavior. More importantly, though, for the rancher, that perception is their reality. You have to understand, losing even a few calves can be financially devastating.
So when they see a wolf, they don't see a majestic icon of the wild. They see a threat to their family's income.
They see an unmanaged liability.
Yeah.
So for them, these three wolves weren't innocent travelers. They were an invasion force.
So you've got these two extreme poles. Save them all, they're essential, versus kill them all, they're pests.
Exactly.
But I want to go back to that resident, Lonnie Evans, because after she said she wished they could be relocated, she added something else that it lands right in the messy middle.
She did. She said, "But I also don't want to see a calf killed either. Nature's hard."
Nature's hard. That feels like the most honest sentence in this whole story.
It really is. It cuts through all the politics and just acknowledges that there are no easy, perfect answers here. We want wild wolves for the ecosystem, and we want secure farms for our food. And sometimes those two things just cannot exist in the same square mile.
So let's zoom out. What does this whole incident tell us about conservation in the bigger picture?
Well, it really brings up that keystone species concept the source mentions. Ecologically, wolves are incredibly important. They manage deer and elk populations, which in turn affects everything down to the vegetation and the physical shape of rivers. We kind of need them for a healthy planet.
But in a specific pasture, they're a disaster for a specific business.
That's the tension. And this delisted zone is the physical embodiment of that tension. The source calls it a fatal loophole, and I think that's a perfect description.
The fatal loophole.
It shows just how fragile an endangered status can be. It's not some iron shield. It can disappear at a state line. It can be erased because of a legal compromise made in a boardroom years ago.
It's an administrative no man's land. The wolves are caught between a federal law that says you are precious and a state mandate that says you are a liability.
And we have to remember, the state is doing exactly what its law tells it to do.
Mm-hmm.
The DWR isn't going rogue here. They are following their mandate. The loophole was created specifically to let them put agriculture first in that one little box.
It just makes you realize that saving nature isn't really about biology. It's about maps and jurisdiction and zoning laws.
And values. At the end of the day, it's a question of what we value more in that one narrow strip of Utah. The integrity of a wild ecosystem or the security of agricultural production. The delisted zone is the state's answer to that question.
And it's a very clear answer.
It is.
Okay, so to sum up what we've unpacked today, we have a specific man-made zone in northern Utah created by a federal exception where state law mandates the prevention of wolf packs.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that mandate, 3 wolves were shot in January. Not because of anything they had done, but because of what the state feared they might do in the future.
Create a pack that would eventually kill livestock.
Yes. And this has ignited a massive debate between those who see wolves as a vital part of nature and those who see them as a direct threat to their way of life.
That's the whole conflict in a nutshell.
It's a tough one. And as we finish up, we always like to leave you with a final thought to chew on.
Right, so we've talked about this zone as a loophole. But I want you to think about this. If a species is truly endangered on a national level, does it make any sense to have these little zones where they can be killed preventatively before they even cause any damage?
Or is that the messy, necessary price we have to pay to balance the needs of nature with the needs of human industry?
Can you really have part-time conservation?
That is a tough question. And I guess that's for you to think about. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Thank you.
Okay, one question for you. Do legal loopholes justify killing endangered wildlife instead of relocating them safely elsewhere? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.